Gastly has been a part of Pokemon since its inception, and it's been really good in a lot of Little Cup generations as a result of its really good stat line, which is 100 special attack and 80 speed. Although it's not got very much bulk, it can very easily just run Eviolite, that's all okay anyway. However, it got banned in Scarlet and Violet, despite the fact that in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum it was fine. In Black and White, it had 4 different sets that were all pretty good. It was fine in X and Y, it was fine in Sun and Moon. But then a funny thing happened in Sword and Shield. Pursuit got removed, so it became very broken very easily, and that's the same thing that happened in Scarlet and Violet. It was broken. It's been banned. We don't want to deal with this anymore. And if you're wondering, well, how broken was it really? This is a Sun team that's running a Gastly. To show you, this isn't even on like balance or hyper offense or webs or anything. Nah, this is on Sun. Sun is literally unviable. We do not have it on the viability rankings. Straight up, Charmander C rank. It's terrible. But also, yeah, just gonna run it. And it's really funny because you're thinking, oh, well, you know, Sun, is it gonna do well? Because I mean, like, even if we look at Corkscrew's team structure over here, you have a Buizel, you probably have Terra Water on Toad School, so that'll be pretty easy to deal with. You have Shroodle, which has Prankster, so that can be really annoying to deal with. You have Priority from Bramblin, Sucker Punch on Pawniard. Wattrel can probably do some paralysis shenanigans, all that sorts of stuff. Sunny Day, like, alright, yeah. And then just hard Gastly. And, you know, Toad can kind of check Gastly because, you know, it's got a base 100 special defense stat. It's going to be able to take some attacks pretty well. But yeah, no. Not at all. It's just so dumb. Because it's just like, oh yeah, so you know how Toad's supposed to be able to check this sort of thing? Well, it can't because you just get a Terra Fire, which isn't even standard. You have Nasty Plot, and then you just die because Aqua Jet does 9% in the Sun, and you have Giga Drain. Oh goody! You have Reliable Recovery too, and then you just kill things. Wonderful. Great. Wonderful. Fantastic. It's... And then it's just like, oh yeah, you know, and then I just get my HP. Yeah, this was terribly unbalanced. We did not like this in the tier. And the wacky thing is that that's not even the only set it can run. It can run Will-O-Wisp Hex, it can run... Well, Sludge Bomb was pretty standard. You can run Terra Blast if you want to run Electric Terra, you could do that. You can also run Terra Fighting. For Pawniard, you could run Terra Electric and then Thunderbolt. And because you have the ability Levitate, you cannot be trapped, and you also get a boosted Thunderbolt. So that was pretty cool. And then you have Eviolite to keep yourself bulkier. And also, checks when you switch and just get burned anyway. So you actually have a lot of bulk, surprisingly. And you also have best speed tier. Well, not the best, but a really, really good speed tier. You outspeed a lot of the metagame. If you go to the viability rankings again, A+, only Daylight outspeeds it. Pawniard and Toad School are too slow. Magnemite needs a Scarf. Mudbray needs a Scarf. Quaxly, outsped. Crab, outsped. Deerling's a speed tie, so I mean, eh. Glimmet gets outsped, Mare outsped, Nimble outsped, Surskit outsped. Zorua-H wasn't in the tier while Gastly was there, so didn't really matter. Buizel outsped, but you were only running on rain teams, really. Mankey could outspeed with a Choice Scarf. Psyduck, rain teams, so very gimmicky. Zorua was too slow, Drifloon was too slow. Fungus, Gothita, Grievard, Houndour, Impidimp, Larvesta, Shellos, Tinkatink, Fuecoco. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that couldn't even match it. And even like, oh, look, B- tier, we have Shroodle and Stunky, and those are pretty good. And you have Voltorb, which is faster. But it's really hard to actually outspeed and deal with Gastly. It's really annoying. Next up, Life Orb set. It was just because it was very nuclear, and because you're 19 HP, Life Orb only takes 1 HP per time you attack, so it gives you a whole bunch of opportunities to attack into your opponent. And even if your opponent's like, oh, well, I know, they're going to go for a Sludge Bomb, well, then you can just substitute. And then your opponent's screwed. Yay! Next up, you had Nasty Plot Sweeper that we just saw here, and it was just really funny because it doesn't even kill. That's not, what is this? It's supposed to be a really not Pokemon. It can just sort of take hits. Okay, and that's because it had a whole bunch of defense investment. Because you have the 100 special attack, it doesn't matter. Oh, and also you can just run Terra Fire because you want to. Oh boy. Oh boy. And then you had a Scarf set that would just outspeed all these other Scarf. He's like, oh yeah, you know, Scarf Mankey, Scarf Mag, doesn't matter anymore. I'm the fastest here. I'm the captain now. It's whatever. But then let's go over the checks for it. Some of these were very gimmicky. There was Gastly. This one was kind of funny, if I'm being honest. If I go to... Oh, it's the usage stats. I don't have it up. Oh, I do! I'm an idiot! Absolute fool, buffoon of me. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty sure it was week 3. Where Elfu fought Daruma. Yeah, and he brought... Yeah, there it is! I'm very sad because Elfu brought Fomantis and it had such a good MU. Very sad. But point is, it could actually be a pretty good Gastly check because it has Purifying Salt. Rock gives it a natural resistance to poison. So the only way to hit it was using Terra fighting. And I mean, like, you would like to do that anyway, but also you have Terra Blast flying yourself, so you could deal with it. Pretty interesting set, and also you have Stealth Ragnarok to keep yourself healthy. But this was terribly gimmicky. It's very funny. But once again, Toad was too slow, and even here, couldn't even deal with it. Gets one shot because it's an uncommon set, so that's fun. Hooray. You also need to use knockoff in order to be able to deal with it, and it doesn't even always kill, which is very dumb. If I go to the calc real quick, and then we go to Toad, and then we go to Gastly. What do you mean they removed it? Yeah, but even if there's no investment, and I just throw on an Eviolite, knockoff doesn't even kill. You don't even have to have investment in order to make sure that doesn't kill. It's very dumb. Pawniard just gets burnt, and then you die to Terra Fire. Ticketing is in theory really good because it's got a pretty solid special defense stat, but because of its tiny baby hands and the fact that it'll just get burnt, it can't do anything. It's really dumb. Because even if you run like, oh yeah, you know, Ticketing, knockoff doesn't even kill, and then if it's burned, doesn't even do half. It's terrible. It can't even check it reliably. Houndour was used because it was really easy to just come in on a Will-O-Wisp, and you could take Shadow Balls really well. And then you could boost them up via Flash Fire, but it was not fun to deal with any sort of... It's Life Orb, so I'm like... Let me run my... More defense investment, and then if you just, like, run... Sludge Bomb... There's not even a terrible chance to 2-hit KO because of poison, and also you're gonna have some investment. Like, if you put in, like, just a little bit... Alright, fine, max. Let's go with max. Yeah, that was really easily going to 2-hit KO, so it was really unreliable as a result. The only good one was actually Stunky, and it had a lot of other defensive utility. It absorbed Toxic Spikes, it could boost up with Nasty Plot, so that way it could become a really cool win con. And you had Fire Blast as good coverage. But the main issue was just, oh yeah, you just get trapped by Diglett. And you can't always keep on coming in, and then it would get kind of hard hit by Gastly's coverage moves, so there was that. But with all that being said, what changes in the metagame now? What becomes better? What becomes worse? And what's just sort of the same? Now, before I get into that part, if you could like, share, and subscribe, I'd very much appreciate it. I'm almost at 500 subscribers, and that'd be really cool to get. But with that all being said, I appreciate you being here in the first place. Thank you very much for watching. But now, on with the rest of it, what actually rises as a result? John Dark Souls is back. You can't stop him. He's got first impression now, and he no longer has to deal with a quadruple resisting Gastly that can just throw off Will-O-Wisps and make it terrible. It's going to be significantly better. It's going to be great. You still have first impression, which is +2 priority, so you get over Sucker Punches, other stuff like that. That was only +1. You have Leech Life to keep yourself healthy. You have Sucker Punch, so that way even after the first turn, you still have some priority to annoy your opponent with. And then you have U-Turn for really nice momentum. It's pretty cool. Next up, we have John Travolta, the little Pompadour man over here. He gets significantly better because he no longer has to deal with the really big annoyance that was Gastly. It could just really easily switch in. I think it's not going to be fantastic as a result of Zorua-Hisui over here. But, point is, it's going to be significantly better now that just the best mod in the game is not running all teams. Like, oh yeah, if you don't get a Ghost versus this, it can actually start sweeping or do some stuff like that. You still have Encore as really good utility, so that way your opponent can't just get free setup on you. All that sorts of stuff. So it's really nice. Next up, we got John Cena. The issue is he might actually become broken, although I'm thinking that Zorua-Hisui might just be the one thing that makes sure that Crab does not leave because of how good of a matchup it has versus it. But Crab wasn't even all that fettered in Gastly meta, which was pretty funny, because instead of Thunder Punch, you could just run Zen Headbutt, and then you hit Gastly, and it was very dumb. But you can bulk up, you have a lot better stats than a lot of things in the tier, and Drain Punch keeps you healthy, so you're a sweeper that's decently fast, has good coverage moves, and technically has reliable healing that you want to use very often anyway. It could get really out of control really quickly, and you may be thinking, oh, well, I can just burn it. Oh, well, you can just use Terra Fire. And then all of those problems go away. What if I paralyze it? Well, then Terra Electric. And then the problem goes away. And it was really hard to deal with. So, will this get banned? Maybe, but I do know that it's going to be really strong now that the best mon in the tier is gone, and it no longer has to deal with constantly having to deal with it. Next up, we have Webs, and the reason why Webs is getting a significant upgrade is because A, we have Zorua-Hisui over here. That's going to be really nice for it. But B, we no longer have to deal with Gastly being on opposing teams, so there's no longer this 18 speed, which is pretty fast, Pokemon going around and just not getting affected by webs and can also sweep you. So there's that. But next up, Zorua-H is definitely going to be really good in the coming metagame. It has knockoff U-turn Will-O-Wisp. Also, do not use this spread. We need to figure out what's the best spread, but it's got knockoff U-turn Will-O-Wisp, and that's already significantly fantastic utility. And also you have a really good typing in Normal Ghost, giving you 3 immunities, so you can come in on stuff like John Cena, or you can also spin block John Travolta over here. And, I mean, like, you can kind of deal with John Dark Souls over here as well. Because you can Will-O-Wisp it, and you can kind of take it kind of well, because you're a Ghost type. Kind of. You also have the signature move Bitter Malice, which lowers the target's attack by 1, which can be really good for checking Quaxly, heck, even checking Nimble, checking Crabrawler, and it's also really strong because you have a base 85 special attack stat and you get up to 17 speed at level 5. So you're decently fast, you can hit really hard in your special attack stat. You also have access to Nasty Plot, you have access to Dark Pulse for other Zorua, you can do Terra Blast, which is stab before you Terrastalize, and it's going to be stab after you Terrastalize because you're a normal type on baseline. And you can probably do like a lot of other stuff here. You have a Memento as good team support. That would be pretty good to use. Trick, maybe. You still have Taunt. You have Comeuppance, which is a very funny one. It got introduced in this generation, and I think it was the signature move of Mastiff, or Mastiff line. And if you get hit by attack, you return 1.5 times damage. I don't expect it to be used, but with that being said, somebody's definitely going to use it in tournament, and it's going to be exceedingly funny. Stay tuned for that. Next up, we have John Deere. It's just going to be better because, the one ghost that was really annoying that I hated seeing is now gone. So there's that. Because it could just kill you with a Sludge Bomb, so you'd have a really hard time trying to switch in. So you still have your reliable recovery, you still have your T-Wave plus flinch hacks, and you still got some really good stats. So overall, just having another 18 speeder to deal with that can kill you, really good for it. And we even have some more stuff going up as well. We have Drifloon. Floon doesn't have to deal with Ghost-type competition in Gastly anymore, so now this can do basically whatever it wants. If you want to run a sweeper, go ahead. If you want to run this sort of set, go ahead. If you want to run it as a spin blocker, you can as well. That can also threaten out the knockoffs and rapid spinners, such as Toadstool, because Toad is a grass type, and because you can really easily just run acrobatics. Like, oh no, I switched it on a knockoff, and now I have double speed, and now acrobatics is double damage. Oh no, how the horror! And then I also still have Will-O-Wisp, so that way I can deal with all the other checks that would otherwise annoy me. You can also run Terra Blast Fighting, so that we can break over Pawnier, but that's sort of up to your personal preference. You have Defog if you want, you have Destiny Bond, you have a whole bunch of stuff in here that's really nice. It's pretty crazy. If you want to, you can also run a special set, because your special attack is 60. That's not a slash for power at all. If you want to run Hex, and then we're still running Will-O-Wisp, and then like run Thunderbolt or another coverage move in there, go ahead. I've also seen run Drifloon. That's a Choice Scarf. And then you also have Flare Boost. So you just come in on a Will-O-Wisp, and then you become really threatening really quickly, and it was very funny the one time it was brought. Or it's been brought a few times, actually. But still, pretty funny. Overall, I'm expecting really good things from Drifloon, but I'm not sure where exactly it's going to end up in the meta. I'm expecting around like A- tier in terms of the tier list. That's where I'm expecting it to be. Next up, we got Hot Topic. Hot Topic's going to be really good now because, oh look, Gastly, the one thing that can threaten me really hard, that also I cannot trap because it's a ghost type, and also it's like on every team and can kill me. I don't have to deal with that anymore, so there we go. It's pretty nice. And because Crab's getting better, Gothita gets better because, congratulations, now you have a trapper for the Crab. And then you can also force Terras, that sort of stuff. Pretty nice. Next up, we have Wattrel with a 17-speed supremacy. You no longer have to deal with an 18-speeder that can possibly nuke you. So, there you go. Spec got adjusted, huh? But also, you still have really good traits. You have Roost for reliable recovery, Volt Switch. You have Hurricane, which hits like a truck. Thunderbolt, that also does really well. If you want to, you can also run Discharge here. And that's really annoying to deal with. With all of that being said, Wattrel's probably going to be like A- tier if I'm being honest with myself. It's just so good. It's not fantastic because you have some new text coming up of like how to beat this because Diglett really likes being against Wattrel because it can just Rock Blast, just whatever. But I'm expecting this to be really, really good for a little while until we get home, so. But what sort of just stays the same, it doesn't really change all that much? Well, the answer is Toad, but also, like, let's go more in depth on it. All the poisons just sort of stay, it's whatever. Mini Pex is Mini Pex, like, oh darn, oh no. Here's, like, the one thing that could... You just had, like, a really neutral matchup versus it, because it couldn't always out-damage you, and if it's not running Thunderbolt, it was just sort of whatever. Like, oh darn, my Marionette got burnt, and that means that it can't be, you know, paralyzed and get really annoyingly flinched down, so there you go. You still have Haze, you can run Terra-type Ghost, so that way you can escape trapping from Gothita, and then you can also blank Crab's moves, which is pretty cool. Get a significantly better matchup there. If you want to run Toxic Spikes, you can, but it's all okay, it's whatever. Among Us Fungus over here also is pretty good, because you no longer have to deal with the really annoying Gastly shenanigans. And you can probably check Crab a lot better now, because I doubt it wants to run Zen Headbutt anywhere near as much. Like, oh look, the Tier King is no longer Gastly, that means I probably can drop Zen Headbutt and be fine. And Ice Punch... Ice Punch isn't bad to hit Fungus Among Us over here, but I think it significantly appreciates not being just flinched and dying and not being able to check it, so that's pretty cool. Vegeta, it's just sort of like... Pawniard is just like the number 2. I'm not even expecting it to go up to the top because Diglett and Toad exist and they both have really good matchups versus it. Well, most of the time anyway. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just sort of like, eh. Like, okay, cool. I no longer get burnt as often. And I can still do my Swords Dance things. So I'm no longer, like, strictly in the support duties. So there you go. Toad's cooler than you over here. It's still going to be good. It still has value because of the special defense. It can still hit you kind of hard because it's got really good coverage moves. It's got knockoff, so even if you want to be able to switch into it, oh, well, darn, I lose all my bulk for the rest of the game. There's Earth Power, which can be really annoying for Mini Pex and Among Us. Well, I mean, kind of. You have knockoff, Rapid Spin, Power Whip. You can also run Giga Drain for reliable recovery, and then you could probably just like shift your EV spread so that way you're less attack or whatever. Oh, also, you can run whatever EV spread you want. I forgot about that, because it's Toad, and it can do whatever it wants all the time. So, hooray. And then you can run like something like this or whatever. You have really good Terra types. If you want to, you can also run Spore or Spikes. And then you have Mycelium Might, which means that even if your opponent has, like, Insomnia... Well, not Insomnia, because it just activates afterwards. But, like, if your opponent has an ability that prevents sleep, well, you just go through it. It's whatever. You can also get up Spikes in the face of abilities that would otherwise do that, so pretty nice, but also, like, I don't see this dropping until we get, like, an expansive dex increase. It's just got way too many good traits because of Knock plus Rapid Spin, and then good coverage, and then also Spore. So, even if Vullaby comes in the metagame, and the reason why I bring up Vullaby is because it's so often being like, oh, hey guys, we should bring back Vullaby, because Vullaby helped Metal was healthy, it had Overcoat. And, oh look, I have Mycelium Might plus Spore, so that means I can get through Overcoat. So there you go. Next up, we have Hazard Bot over here. It's still just going to be good. It had like a neutral matchup versus Gastly anyway, because it could hit it really hard and it could take some attacks. But then you also have Stealth Rocks, Sludge Bomb, Power Jam, Mud Shot. Like, Glimmet's going to be really solid even as the dex expands, because it's just like, oh yeah, I just get free value out of just setting up Toxic Spikes, because I can take an attack. And also, my defenses aren't terrible. And You have a special attack even higher than Gastly, so that's really, really good. We'll have to see what exactly kind of sets you can run with this, because you have like Mud Shot, you have Explosion, that one's fun. Memento, you have Screens, you got Spikes, so if you want to run Spike stat, you can go for it. Oh, I have to go for. Do I still have this open? Please tell me this is where the. Oh no, it's got to be a different week. There's no way. Was it week? It wasn't week 5, was it? Where it's the. No, it was week 4. That's what it was. Please tell me I can. Yes, this game. It. The reason why it's so funny is because what you expect from Glimmet is that it's going to set a whole bunch of. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I just remembered the fact that this has a Hoppip and a Hippo. Oh. And the reason why it's so funny is because it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run Terra Ghost, Corrosion, Toxic, Glimmet, and it somehow won the entire game. It's also rest sleep time. It didn't even have any attacking moves. Oh. The reason why this is just so funny is because you think, like, what is this even supposed to do? But then even if I skip to, like, turn 20 or something, it's still alive and there's a whole bunch of hazard. It's just so funny because it wins the game. It's so dumb. Oh, man. It's just such a funny set. It's just like, oh yeah, I have Toxic, Rest, Sleep Talk, Spikes. And it worked. I think I need to do a deep dive on this game because of how stupidly funny it is. I don't know why it was brought, but it brings me very much joy to see that it got brought in the first place. I'm having a good time, alright? Ow. Alright, so I mean, it's still gonna be good. What's bad now? Houndour has a significantly worse niche as a result because it can't just take Will-O-Wisps anymore. I don't think it's gonna drop too much because, like, oh darn, it's no longer used against Gastly, but now we have the very annoying Zorua-H, and Zorua-H likes running knockoff. It likes running Will-O-Wisp. You can just run the same set and it'll be usable, but I think it's a lot less applicable to the entirety of the metagame because not everybody wants to run Zorua-H, so there's that. You could also just run Stunky instead, and that's all okay. It's still going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere as good, so there's that. Is this processing? Yeah, right. But Stunky's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just drops because, like, oh, well, it no longer has the prime target in Gastly because it has such a good matchup versus it. You can take any sort of Will-O-Wisp. You can take Stab combination really well because you have Dark and Poison. You had T-Spike support. That, well, actually, you can set T-Spikes with this if you want. It depends on how you want to run your set. But the point is like, oh yeah, it no longer has this ideal prime target that it can come in on and just really annoy, and also just possibly get a nasty plot up on, and it was really, really, really good against. So is that. Next up, Grievard. So this is gonna fall for the express purpose of Zorua-H. If it wants to spec into Bitter Malice and use a special attack, good boy just dies. And a lot of the defensive utility of, oh yeah, I have Shadow Sneak, just goes out the window when one of the best new ghosts is also immune to Ghost because it's normal Ghost type. You can't hit her with Ice Finger, Stomping Tantrum. It also has Knock, so. Let me get this set up. So, well, Bitter Malice first off, but like just this combination already wrecks like both of these two. I'll get to you more in a sec, but it's really hard for Grievard to be like, oh yeah, I can just deal with Zorua-H when you really can't. Because Bitter Malice can kill you, Knockoff can kill you. If it's a nasty plot set, then you're basically free setup, and it's really hard for you to do anything. Like, oh yeah, I can come in and yawn. It's like, no, you're not coming in and yawning. It's not happening. You still have good utility moves in Ice Fang and Stomping Tantrum. You also have Destiny Bond, you have Rest, you have Roar. You got a lot of stuff going on. Oh, if we go back to this one, or I'm pretty sure... Yes! Cripes. It was Roar Grievard on the set because you had Hazard Sack and it was very dumb. I just loved watching this game. It's so stupid in the best way possible. But you could run Roar on it. It's still got a lot of utility, but I think the main issue is like, oh, well, one of the best things is that you can really easily deal with the Rapid Spinners, and now you have a new really good competition for it, and also the reason why you run Shadow Sneak being Gastly is gone, so hard to justify as a result. Next up, Tumbling Down. I don't think it's going to be very good in coming meta, like at all. Once again, you got Zorua-H over here. Why ever run this boy, especially when Toad School is still really good? And you Quaxly get significantly better anyway. It's just very hard to justify this. Like, oh yeah, it's a spin blocker that it also has rapid spin. It's just that its stat line's so mediocre. Like 40 HP, 30 defense, 35 special defense. It's terrible. It's terrible on a spin blocker. Like, Grievard already outclassed it in that role as just like, oh yeah, if you just want to have a default spin blocker, well, congratulations, you have the Fluffy Good Boy, and the Fluffy Good Boy just deals with it, and also can do team support with Yan. It's just so hard to justify this. And also, Pawn's better because there's less ghosts running around, so you can't even use Strength Snap as reliable recovery because, oh look, I get some HP back, and then Pawn gets a +1, and then it starts sweeping my team, and I can't do much against it with Bramblin. So there's that, and then also, you don't even outspeed Pawn. You get up to 16 at level 5, which is really bad. Like, you don't even outspeed Houndour, Stunky, Shroodle. I'll get into Shroodle in a sec. Zorua outspeeds it. It's really bad for it. The meta just doesn't really... It's going to drop to like Little Cup Yu or something, and it's going to be really good there, but it's just so bad. And next up, we have the Devious Little Creature. It's Shroodle, and the reason, like, oh, well, it's on the viability rankings. It's B-. What's going on? What do you mean it's going to drop? How could it go into inviability? The answer is, if we look at the usage data for Little Cup, because it's recently March, one in the top 10 was Shroodle. And that was because it was really good at annoying, well, not necessarily dealing with, but it was really good for annoying Gastly, because you have Knock, you have normal poison typing, meaning that you resist Sludge Bomb and you're immune to Shadow Ball. You have Knock Off, you get a whole bunch of different utility moves. You have Prankster, you can also run as a sweeping set that can be really, really annoying to deal with. But you have like Knock Off U-Turn, you have Gunk Shot. If you want to, you can run Terra Blast and then do Terra type Dark, so that way you don't have to worry about... Okay, that way you don't have to worry about Pawniard. You have Parting Shot as a really nice... Oh, well, I need to get out of here card. And then you have Copycat plus Prankster, which was really annoying to deal with because you can do Terra Dark, or just go back to the Prankster pivot set. But then just do Terra Dark Knockoff, and then Copycat it, and then your opponent has a really hard time switching in and not having a whole bunch of stuff go wrong for them. So that was interesting. So that you also have Swords Dance. I mean, you could technically use Trailblaze, but that's not... Nah. Like, it just doesn't have enough going on that really truly sets it apart. Like, oh yeah, it can absorb T-spikes, and it has like a lot of good utility moves. It's one of the few knockoff users, but it's just like, it's just very mid, you know? Like, it just can't do enough. And if we look at the stat line, it sort of has the same thing. Like, Bramblin's stat line, it's not very good, but I mean, this isn't great either. I mean, like, worse defenses, well, actually no, you have better defenses because Bramblin's terrible. Whoops. But you have some okay defenses, but it's nothing fancy. And like, oh, 18 speeds here, but then you only have like this kind of okay attack stat, and you don't have stab on either of knockoff or U-turn, which can be really annoying. And although, like, oh, well, but what about Zorua-H? Zorua-H doesn't have stab on knockoff or U-turn. So what makes that better? It also has access to Will-O-Wisp, and it can disguise itself via illusion. And although, like, this is not a bad Pokemon by any stretch, it was much better in Gastly meta because it could check Gastly pretty alright. It still doesn't like taking burns, though, so... Overall, I think more flexibility in the entirety of it, but also I'm scared about Wattrel because, like, we just don't have any good rock types. They just don't... They're just not. Like, oh, cool, we have Glimmet, but then it just dies because you can just, I don't know, Volt Switch out. We don't have the very classic combination of, like, oh yeah, Rock Ground. Like, the only one they have is Larvitar, and Larvitar is bad. Look at this stat line, it's terrible. So that's what I'm concerned about. It's just going to become very good very quickly, and whether or not it becomes, like, A+ tier because it just pairs up well against stuff is going to be concerning. I think that Zorua-H is going to be really interesting to experiment with. You could run like a Nasty Plot set, Comeuppance set. In theory, you can run a Choice Scarf set. In theory. And, I mean, you still have to worry about other Zorua, because, like, oh yeah, it pairs up really well versus this Zorua, so that's kind of funny. Are we going to see, like, Shell Smashers go back up to the top, because that was a really big thing that people were worried about? We'll have to see. Overall, I'm kind of pretty happy with how the meta's going right now. But also, John Dark Souls! I want to be able to use them again. It's just that it was such a liability in Gastly meta, because, like, oh darn, I used First Impression and did, like, a whole bunch of chip to Gastly, and now I have a burnt, not very good Pokemon that I can use. Hooray. In conclusion, I've said that like 3 times now. In conclusion, I'm liking where it's going. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could like, share, and subscribe, leave a comment of something you want to see in the future, all that good stuff, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you for coming to this end of the video in the first place. I mean, being able to do this is just a really nice hobby project, so thank you all very much. And as always, have a good day.